Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this NBC 12 special, Managing Your Mental Health. I'm Simone Cucurullo.
And I'm Jasmine Turner, and we're really excited this afternoon to be speaking to two very compassionate experts. That's how I'm going to describe both of you. We have Karen Rice, who is a licensed clinical social worker, as well as Tammy Mobley with Real Girls. You may have seen her before here on NBC 12, and we're just going to have a conversation, and mainly focusing on young people and just how adults can support them in their mental health journeys.
Absolutely. Both of our guests here today have plenty of experience with teens, adolescents, and young people and their mental health. So we're excited to kind of pick their brains a little bit and ask a few questions about what we can do and what you can do watching at home to support the young people in your life who may be struggling with mental health.
Well, first things first, for both of you to answer, you work with young people, you work with their families. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing right now for our teens and young adults?
I would say stress, relationship stress. That's a big thing with them. I was just speaking with you earlier. I just came from Armstrong High School, and we were doing an activity with Unbreakable Mind coaching because of Mental Health Awareness Month, and they had to write down what stressors they are experiencing, and family and relationships and test taking was the biggest stressors that they're experiencing right now.
How old of students are saying that they're stressed out by their relationships?
So the school that we're in, Armstrong, we're working with 9th graders, so they're freshmen.
That's 14, 15 years old.
Yes, yeah.
You think back to that time in your life, what was going on in my 9th grade year when I was 14 years old that was stressing me out. So what is something, is it romantic relationships, friendships? What are the key relationships there that
Mostly romantic relationships, because I work with girls, and girls are kind of funny. They have like their own circle, and anyone else that feel like that's not in their circle, they're not going to associate with them. So it's mostly relationships, which is funny because when we walked in, one girl said she's in a relationship and she had a ring, and she said, yeah, we're even married. We said, you're married? And she pulled a ring out of her pocket and put it on and said, yes, I'm married. And we said, we got to have a whole conversation about that. And we said, well, why are you hiding your ring? She said, oh, because it's just too big. So we was just talking about that in addition to saying, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. Like, what are the stressors and relationships that are big with them?
Right. That's how intense things are for young people is. This ring means married, and wanting to equate it with all the adult things in the world. So the stressors that you mentioned in the clinical world turn into anxiety and depression if they go far enough. So that's really kind of the continuum of what we're seeing.
And when it comes to the support systems, the resources that are available, Karen, you have 30 years of work in this space. How has it changed, and how do you continue to adapt to meet the needs of people today, especially young people?
I think before, certainly 30 plus years ago, there was a sense that professionals knew best and adults knew best. And I think over time, and you might have seen this too, we've really tried to put the emphasis on families knowing best for their own, and for youth to be able to speak up and have their own voice and to tell us what's really important, what they feel like their strengths are, what their challenges are, instead of having someone dictate and say, well, this is what it looks like you're feeling now. We really want to hear from the youth.
You mentioned the stress that starts in these relationships at their beginning when they're maybe 14, 15 years old, and that can turn into anxiety and depression. How long of a span and how long does that take to realize, okay, maybe there's something clinically wrong here and not just say everyday stress of being a teenager?
Sure. What we really look at for something that becomes a clinical issue is if it is intense in duration and intense in time. Does it last more than a couple of days? Does it last beyond the youth's usual bounce back kind of period of time? Even, as adults, we have times when things happen in our life situations and we get down or upset or worried. But we usually have other things in life that just kind of pull us along. And what we're looking for young people is someone sad or not connecting the way they used to, and it just seems to continue. And it's invading other aspects of their life besides home. It's in their community, it's with their after-school activities, it's at school. So that's when we really have concerns.
What would you all say is important to have? Sometimes we use the toolbox metaphor for many things in life, and with mental health, that can also be something of what do we kind of keep in our own maybe emergency kit. What would you say is important, especially for teenagers, whether that's a support person or that's a hobby? What would you tell them to pack in there?
I would say all of that. One of the activities that we do is that we talk about filling your emotional cup. And how do you know when your emotional cup is filled, and how do you know when you need to pour into your emotional cup? And we actually have a paper with a cup on there and saying right around the cup and saying, what do you need? Who do you need? Who's in your support system? And that could be an activity. Today we were saying, of course, Real Girls is a support group. A trusted adult that you could actually talk to and say, you know, I'm feeling this way. One of the things that came up this week when we were doing a mental health activity is that my students said that their parents said, you can't be stressed. You don't have any bills. You know, you don't have it. What do you have to be stressed about? And I think as parents, because I'm a parent also, that sometimes we just think that way. You're saying, how could you be stressed? You don't have a car note, you don't have mortgage, you don't have any of this stuff. You're just going to school. However, there's so many things that these students are dealing with. My son is a college student, and in October, someone on his school died by suicide. You know, she hung herself, and her suite mate had to come and find her that way. So there's so many other things that students are dealing with that they need to make sure that their emotional cup is filled, and when their emotional cup starts depleting, knowing who to reach out to.
I think so many times, unfortunately, it's like a generational divide, you know, with our parents' generation and their parents' generation before that, and even culturally and racially, it can be something that's pushed to the side, depending on how you grew up in the environment you're in. So for those kids who maybe you say, get an adult you can trust, if they don't have someone in their life, what's the best thing they can do? Who do they turn to?
Well, what you were mentioning, as we know, are protective factors, and these are things that have been researched for years, and they do change over time, and they're very specific to the individual. But an important adult, and we don't say parent because sometimes
Might
for
not
some youth
always
it's
be.
not parent. It could be a coach, a church leader, your neighbor. It could be maybe the boss at your first job, a teacher, anyone, someone who looks you in the eye and says, it's important that you're here. I see you. And that's what, you know, we really try to be, and what we try to teach people to be when we're working with adults, interacting with young people.
And I think that's such a good reminder for all the adults watching
Yes.
today. If you just, you know, see a teen who may just be like down and out, whether they're someone who comes into your work or they're a friend of your child, it's just so important to always be aware, because you never know when you might come across a young person who needs an adult in their life, who doesn't have somebody who's at their home for them.
Absolutely. I spoke to a mental health professional recently who was saying that the root of many conflicts, and I think I shared this at the last digital dialogue, but also what I've found can be the key to interpersonal relationships or life in general is to feel seen, heard, and respected.
Yes.
So the root of the conflict is when people don't feel seen, heard, and respected, that can turn into being angry or upset or withdrawn. And when you do feel seen, heard, and respected, it can make a huge difference in your life. And that's what having that support person, whether it's a parent or not, can help do.
Right.
as
And those
well.
other protective factors, like we were saying, belonging in a community. Do I belong somewhere? If I didn't show up for 6 hours, would someone miss me? Do I have hobbies I can turn to? Do I have things that we call it in mental health first aid class, we call it self-help. What do I do when I feel down, and can I get to that now? And if I can't think of anything, do I have people who can help me brainstorm ways to reach out?
You talked about the mental health first aid. Let's jump to the event that you have coming up.
Sure, absolutely. Since about 2017 at Virginia Home for Boys and Girls, we have offered free mental health first aid classes. They're youth mental health first aid classes, meaning we teach adults who interact with young people. And that's basically all of us on some level. We teach adults to learn how to spot signs of mental health concerns. And maybe once you recognize these signs, well, now what do I do? What do I say to start a conversation? How do I address someone that maybe I've avoided addressing because I didn't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing? And what we talk about are practical skills for conversation, and just really helping people with their confidence. Just paying attention, stepping into that space is so important. You don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be just the exact words, but the young person's going to know when you're sincere and when you care.
Anyone can come to this event? When?
Absolutely.
Give us the details.
Friday, May 19th is the next one. Starts at 8:30 in the morning. You can register with us online, vhbg.org. We have a Facebook page. Just come right on to our information and sign up. We'd love to have you. We are looking at, if our numbers work out right and everybody comes this May the 19th, we should teach our 1,000th student for free because we think it's that important. We want youth to have access to so many resources, like all the resources we represent, but we want youth to have someone that they can talk to.
And just in researching a little bit about the Virginia Home for Boys and Girls, you talk about how you guys are so reliant on volunteers and people who give their time for free out of the goodness of their heart. I think a lot of times we sit back and we wonder, how can we help? What can we do? This is a perfect opportunity for something like that.
Right. This is an opportunity to come and learn so that you can share your time. And again, you don't have to be exactly perfect. We have people who come into class and they say, I'm not sure I know what to do, and I want to approach this child, but I'm not sure what to say. And by the time they leave class, they have a sense of confidence that I'm going to go have this conversation tonight.
That's wonderful.
And it's wonderful.
And Tammy, you have an event coming up in just 2 days.
Yes.
3
On
days.
Saturday, we will have a mental health awareness event. It's called Finding Balance When You Feel Unbalanced. And the reason why I chose that name, on April 1st, one of my childhood best friends died from cancer. And being the head of an organization and still being a wife, still being a mom, still doing everything, I was trying to find that balance. I was feeling unbalanced, and I was trying to find that balance, because when you are the face of an organization, I walk around with a smile all the time, but then I would still go home and cry. Or I was in actually 2 meetings and I just broke down and cried because someone that I know from 5th grade that passed. So the event is on Saturday, and we have a panel discussion. It's going to be led by a licensed therapist. We have someone on the panel that is a suicide attempt survivor. Another person on this panel is a student from VCU, just talking about how she deals with depression and anxiety with school. A woman that lost her mom when she was 13 to suicide, and no one told her that she died by suicide. So she just thought that her mom just never woke up. So just that we have a mindfulness activity. We're going to have a ribbon ceremony, just showing the different color ribbons for mental health. And then we have spoken words, so we're going to do a spoken word activity as well. And it is sponsored by the City of Richmond Youth Positive Development Grant. Yes, so we're going to be doing that. Yes.
And I was looking up this event on your LinkedIn, and you had some statistics. I just want to read this so people understand how big of an impact this is. It's estimated that more than 1 in 5 U.S. adults live with a mental illness. That's 4.8 million people out there. This is something that affects so many of us. And it's clearly, we're doing our part to make sure that it's become more talked about, and you ladies are putting on these incredible events. Why is it so important that we all step up as a community to make sure these events continue to happen and the conversation keeps going, despite, the factors in our world that tell us this is something that's taboo and we shouldn't talk about it?
And like I said, at my son's school, a young lady died by suicide. And I want to piggyback off you just using the words, because, we're so used to saying to somebody, hey, how you doing? And we're like, oh, we're okay. Or you're okay. But now when I speak to my son as a college student, I say, how are you doing emotionally? How are you doing mentally? And he says that back to me now. So he's just not saying, are you okay, Mom? He says, how are you doing mentally and emotionally? Because we want to know. We want to know what is going on. We want to know, because even when you came home from school when you're young and your mom said, did you have a good day? And you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Right?
What'd you learn today?
Right. But if you had those open-ended questions, say, what made it amazing today? Like, what happened? Like, you look a little bit down, did everything, like opening up the conversation a little bit more, then I think that we were able to have those deeper conversations and find out what's going on. Because you may have that young lady or young man in the corner that's an introvert and not sharing a lot. But we tend to just say, okay, well, they're just quiet today, but go ahead and start asking those questions.
We want to make it okay to have the
a safe
conversation,
space.
so we want to model that,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Absolutely.
And those conversations can happen in the smallest and most casual settings, whether that's sitting around the dinner table, sitting on the couch and there's a commercial of a show. We have apps and things that we can pause if the conversation gets deeper, and we need to really get into it and hear more. It doesn't have to be this big formal event.
Right,
The
exactly.
smallest interactions can open up conversations that could be life-saving.
Sure.
honestly.
Sitting in the car.
Yes.
That
Exactly,
feels
sitting in
good.
the car.
Why
This is what-
is
oh, go
that?
ahead.
I have why is that? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing mentally? Why does that strike a chord with so many people? Like, wait a second, you're really asking me a question here.
Because you don't even think about this. When my son was younger, I would drive him to school, and people would say, he could take the bus. Look how old he is. But we would have so much in that conversation, that 7-minute drive, that, when he came home the day before, I wouldn't get. But on that way, I would find out who's being bullied. I would find out who's had a good day. I would find out who broke up that day. It's just so much information that you can have. So that's why it's so important to ask, how are you doing actually mentally? How are you doing emotionally? I want to really know, like, provide a safe space, because again, sometimes as parents, as you were saying, we could have another adult. Sometimes parents, we don't know that, and they're just saying, we don't want to talk to a parent.
Yeah. I have a dear friend who asks the question, how's your heart?
Ooh,
And the first time I was so taken back by the question, but it's similar to that. Who are you? How are you really doing emotionally? It makes you kind of take that beat and then say, okay, is this a trusted person? Yes, it is.
Right.
And I can answer the question honestly.
And I think I'll step into that space and say that if they really want to hear this. Because, again, as adults, we've been asked, how are you doing and all, and we think, I really would like to tell you, but I don't know, is it okay? Is it safe?
How much time do we have?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
So, setting that pathway for using the specific words just allows the person to know right now, yes, I do want to know.
We just get so caught up, I think, in the day-to-day, in our jobs, in our taking care of our families, going to work, making sure we're doing all of our responsibilities that we need to do. I think so many people just forget, let me take a breath right now and think about myself. Am I good? Am I able to complete all these tasks? You talk about filling your cup. You can't pour from an empty cup, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if we even have the mental capacity, to even using that now to just say, I think sometimes people ask us to do stuff and we say yes out of obligation, or yes because we feel bad, or yes because it's a loved one, instead of just saying, I really don't have the mental capacity to deal with that right now. Like, my emotional cup is like right here, and I can't take anything else in. And instead, we go ahead and we try to do something else, and in the background, we're stressed out over it. And we have to be able to take care of ourselves.
It's okay to say no.
Yeah. And that can start young.
Right, we do want it to start young, and again,
Yes.
that's the modeling, where we show it's okay to not do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to take a moment, if we could play part of an interview from a local student. This is Chance Evans, who's a junior at Atlee High School, and she is a leader of the Speak Up Club through the Cameron K. Gallagher Foundation at Atlee. And we had a conversation a couple of nights ago. You'll hear more tonight at 6, but she said something that really struck a chord with me. I'd love to take a listen, and then we can chat about it.
I also think, like, one message for adults would be that, like, to a teenager or to an adult it might not seem like a big deal, but to a teenager there might be something that's like really bothering them. But when they look back on it in 10 years, it's not going to be a huge deal. But to them in the moment, to that teenager, it's like, this is really painful and really difficult. And sometimes adults need to, like, take a step back and think about what it's like for the teenager themselves.
So how can we listen more? How can we really hear what they're saying, and instead of throw the, oh, you'll be okay, I promise, taking that, how are you doing emotionally, listening to what they're saying, giving guidance, but also just honoring that that's how they feel.
Right, and sometimes most of the time that comes from a really good place. We as adults don't want to think of the young people in our families or that we care about hurting or having worries that are so big. So we want to maybe try to brush it aside. But I think what we really do, and what we do in our class, is we review development and adolescent development and kind of take us back to, what is it like to be 14 and have your heart broken? What is it like to be 15 and fail a test that you don't normally fail, and those kind of things, or to go to the lunchroom and have nobody to sit with? What is this like? So we talk a whole lot about focusing on the person in front of us and making the conversation, even for the briefest moment, totally about that young person. And we practice that and talk about the importance of that. And we practice it just to see how easy it really is. It's not hard at all. It's just being mindful of that moment.
And this is in your workshop, you do this.
This is in the workshop. We practice a lot. We want you to have practical information to take home with you.
The one word that comes to mind when I listen to the interview is validation.
Yes.
Yes.
She clearly, you know, in what she's trying to say is missing that validation, whether it be from a parent, a teacher, the adult in her life, as we mentioned earlier. Just having someone to make it, to say to you, how you feel is normal, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with it. That can really go such a long way for a young child.
And I also think that we should really listen. You know, when someone comes to us, we automatically want to interject sometime or get, but just say, is it okay for me to respond now? Or just be quiet. You know, there's sometimes that my son talks to me, or even girls that talk to me, and I'm like thinking like, oh, I want to say something. I wanna say something. But I just didn't go, okay, thank you for sharing that. Is it okay for me to share? Do you want me to share, or you just want me to listen? Because that's also showing that it's a safe space, because sometimes they may just say, no, I just want you to listen. And sometimes they may say, I want to get your feedback. And that's when your opportunity to come in and be in a non-judgmental way. Again, not you can't be experienced in it, or you'll have another boyfriend, or you'll have another girlfriend, right? Be in that moment right there, and again, validate their feelings, right? Whatever they're feeling at that time, and don't dismiss it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In class, we talked a lot about what is the difference between reassurance or advice, and how to offer that reassuring hope realistically without saying, well, here's what I would do, or this is what you need to do, and really focus on that young person.
What would you say are the key takeaways from the mental health first aid workshop for the students?
Oh, sure. I think confidence is one of the things that through the practice that we do, and through using words that are very important to use. For example, at one section of the class, which can be difficult and we prepare for it, we practice crisis kind of questioning. You know, if I found a note in my child's room that says, I'm thinking about dying, I want to learn how to ask, are you thinking about killing yourself? And not say it in such a vague way that they don't really know if they can respond or can I hear this, but we talk about how to ask questions from, you seem to not be yourself today, on part of the continuum, all the way down to the critical questions that we have to be able to ask our young people. So for me, that's the takeaway, is the confidence to ask the questions and to step into that space.
We have another event coming up, you know, while we're on the topic of all of these resources we want our viewers to take advantage of. The Mental Health America of Virginia, I work with them on their board of directors, and they have this Resilience Family Field Day coming up also this weekend. This is really just a chance to get out with your kids, your family, kind of put all the stressors in life away, take a break from the softball and t-ball practice, whatever it may be that you guys are running to during the week, and just have a chance to be a family and get out there. There's going to be informational tables, food vendors, different things that the kids can take part in. It's just kind of an opportunity to take a few hours, take a deep breath, get outside, enjoy the outdoors, and just learn a bit about the resources that we have here in our community.
And I know you both have touched on it in this conversation, but when we as adults are listening to you all as adults who have a direct line to young people, what is one big piece of advice that you have for adults to take that step back and really listen to that teenager, maybe that child, or maybe that 20-something in their life who may be going through something?
I just encourage people to take all of that care and that passion that they have for wanting to have this conversation with this young person, and allow it to be in that space, so that you're present, so that you make the youth feel like they're present, and you're willing to listen.
And I would say the same thing, is offering a safe space, and reassuring them that, and not, you know, today may be a bad day, but tomorrow's another day. All right, let's make it through today. Let's take baby steps, that we're going to get there, and I'm here for you. Whether if you want me to respond, if I'm just going to be here and not respond, that I am here for you. And if I'm not, maybe you need to speak to Auntie Jasmine. You know, maybe you need to speak to someone else, because maybe I can't be that person, but I want to make sure that you do have a person that's there for you.
We want to be humble enough to connect youth with who they will speak with.
Yes.
And that is absolutely fine.
I think that's hard for some parents sometimes, because your
is.
mom and dad want to be your superheroes, you know? So to take a step back and really say, okay, maybe I'm not the most well-versed or well-equipped person to help you with this, but let's get you in contact with somebody who can.
Absolutely. Wow. I really appreciate both of you sharing that, because I think that is a big takeaway that we are so used to saying, but it's me, I'm the one you're supposed to talk to. But the key is, who will you open up to? And the opening up is what will make sure that you are getting the support that you need.
Yes.
And we have to just, the humbling, right? That comes with that. I
had
appreciate
my host for the event, Cara Presley, she said when her son was younger, she would say, what color day did you have today? So if it was a dark color, then she knew that he maybe had an off day. But if it was a bright color, then she knew that the day was a little bit better. But either way, she would have a conversation with them, even the dark color. And I said, I think that was just really amazing, instead of the typical, how was your day?
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. You know, I have to ask, because I think it's something that parents are trying to navigate in this day and age. The role of social media in our teens and our young people's lives.
We waited a while to get there.
I know, it's just something we got to talk about briefly. How, obviously, social media can be an amazing tool for so many ways. With every great tool comes the downfalls of it, so to say. So what recommendations do you have for parents who are maybe struggling navigating their children and the internet?
Right.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I would say, so I'm one of those parents that I look a lot. When my son was younger, he couldn't have social media to a certain time. Even his emails was forwarded to me, so I was able to see all the emails.
Wow.
He's a college student. I still have 360 on his phone, just to make sure, not just that I'm like hovering, checking over him, but there's a lot of things that's happening. I just want to make sure that he's in the space that he says, I need you, that I'm able to get to him. One of the activities that I used to do with social media, we would have notes, these different notes that we would give out to everybody, and the notes would be like really mean things, and we would have someone stand against a wall, and everybody would say these mean things to them. And it was like, you're ugly, you're fat, and all of this stuff. And I said, this is exactly how it is in social media. Like when you're saying all this stuff to her back, remember, if you have 500 people following you, that's 500 people saying all these negative things. What would happen if that person was constantly hearing that all the time? What would happen to them? They would probably break down. They would have depression. You know, they may want to die by suicide. So we have to think about everything that we put on social media is our digital footprint. And we do a lot on social media within Real Girls, realizing that, you know what, if you put it on there, it stays on there. Even though they put it in their story like, oh, Miss Tammy's only for 24 hours, it's part of your digital
Still
footprint.
alive.
Yes.
It's there. I think parents, I agree, really need to know what's going on. Don't shy away from apps and social media and language and vocabulary. Know enough about what's going on so you can have communications with your child about it, so you could recognize if something's a little bit off. I wouldn't let someone come into my house and go up into my child's room unseen.
Right.
Same thing with the social media. I don't want them people having access to my kids and vice versa. But it's here, it's there, it's their language, it's their communication. We need to step into that a bit too.
Do you hear from, especially with Real Girls, that social media is something that they struggle with in terms of how people interact on it?
I hear from Real Girls that social media causes the fights. That's caused a lot of conflict because they're on social media and they're talking to each other. So what happens when they get to school, then they're able to see each other face to face, and then that's when the conflict happens. So that's when we step in again and say, we're on social media, but we're not the parents, we're just in the schools, right? So we can't do so much in that aspect, but there's a lot of fights that are stemmed from social media, a lot of conflicts.
A lot of things get started in social media because, again, it's a blind kind of thing, right? I can say, I'm pretty brave saying what I'm saying when you're not here, but then things pick up once people are face to face. So I hear the same.
This is such a good reminder too for young people and for adults. Your words have a weight to them.
They're
You
powerful.
have to really think about what you're saying, not even in social media, in person as well, because you never know when that could just affect someone or trigger, like you say, in a wrong way. And you know, maybe that's not what you meant, but you know, you never know how they take it. So it's just a reminder that our words are powerful, and you really have to be careful and be kind more than anything else.
Kind,
Absolutely. It's 2:30. And this was an incredible conversation. We were saying earlier, we want to be able to have these candid, more relaxed, and just open, vulnerable conversations to hopefully help someone connect them to resources. So we have connected you with 3 events. I don't want to make anyone's job harder, but if we could just pop up each of the 3 that we mentioned as we start to wrap up here, just so folks can get the information again. We have Tammy's event. Give us a quick rundown again, day and time.
Finding balance when you feel unbalanced is this Saturday, May 13th from 11 to 2:30 at Bird Park Roundhouse.
Awesome.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, up next, we'll
event.
see
Let's see
what we have.
Okay, here we go.
This is Youth Mental Health First Aid at the campus of the Virginia Home for Boys and Girls. 8:30 a.m. on Friday, May 19th is our next one, and we host them once a month. So check our website, but we look forward to seeing everybody there.
Okay, Simone, your turn.
And then once again, the Mental Health America of Virginia Resilience Family Field Day, an opportunity to get out with the family, enjoy some of the vendors that are out there, learn from resources in the community. There will also be a food drive, so you can bring some canned food items to help support those of us in our community who are in need. So 3 great opportunities. If you can't make it to one of them, it's okay. We're going to provide you with plenty of other opportunities as the months go on. But maybe if it's something small, like sharing this on social media, visiting our website, visiting one of your websites and checking out the information. And you never know, just a quick share on your feed could really help somebody who might be in need.
And that's the goal of this initiative, Managing Your Mental Health. We'll be here once a month with different guests, just connecting you to resources, because our job is to be on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make it normal to talk about, and you know, we get up here every day. Like I always say, we're up here reading the news, but we're all people too, and we want to let you guys know that we're here to provide you with anything you need. If you have suggestions for us,
Yes,
please
send them to
reach out to Jasmine and I on social media, email, whatever way. You can definitely get a hold of us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Well, thank you both for being here, for sharing your time and your expertise, and thank you for all you're doing in the community.
Thank you
You're
for
very
having
welcome.
us.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll have them back, don't worry.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.